everybody, Kyle here in the Keyway Workshop, and today you're going to be following along as I build the studio space that I'm currently sitting in. This happened over the period of about 2 weeks, so you're going to see some wardrobe changes and some audio and video level changes as I figure out all the different recording settings in this new space. And you're going to see some shelves coming down, some ceiling going up, some electrical. We're going to be putting up all the shelving and paneling that you see around me, and then at the end of the video we're going to be putting up this acoustic paneling on the back here. So thanks for joining and enjoy. Quick update where we're at here. We've just got all the vertical rails up, all the horizontal rails up. We've got half of the tie rods coming down, and I'm just about to start leveling this out because it is not easy to level. So as you can see here, it's up, but well, you can't really tell from up here. I guess you'll have to trust me. It's not flat. So next up, I'm gonna go back up to each rod, tie it off against the laser level. So we'll see how it goes. Check this out. Ha! Looks like a normal ceiling until you realize that every single one of these tiles turns on, and we will eventually be able to control it and do patterns and dimmers and all that kind of stuff. So that's gonna be really cool. So yeah, original lighting pulled down, everything's leveled, it's all looking good. Right now I've only got 4 lights plugged in. I have to wait for some electrical components to come in on Monday, but we're looking good. Exciting update. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. We've got a total of 24 panels of 45 watts apiece. The whole ceiling actually only takes up about 1,000 watts, which is pretty incredible for how much light it puts out. But check this out. Boom, it's like a huge glowing dance floor above you. Now we can get even lighting all the way through here. There's a little bit of a dark spot there when there's no glare from the wall behind me, but pretty good. We've got this huge work table down the center. This is where we're gonna put that leather top that I was talking about. And then all of these walls are gonna get filled up with all of our gear. Pretty exciting. Okay, so this is an example of what I'm thinking for a tabletop. We've got these hides because we use them for our keychains and stuff like that. But this would make a really beautiful tabletop as well. The problem is this will be like a $350 tabletop. So I might have to swing over to our local leather store, which here in the GTA is Tandy Leather, and we may need to grab something a little more reasonable for our tabletop. So, oh boy, that's gonna look amazing. What do we think? Pretty good? I feel like it needs to be a bit darker. Darker, and also needs to be thicker. This is 3 ounce, but we're gonna need something closer to maybe 5 ounce, 7 ounce, because I want to be able to glue this down to the tabletop. Or do I? I don't know if I want to be able to glue this down, because then I don't want to ruin this wood top. If we get something like a 5 ounce or a 7 ounce, it's more like card, and it should lay flat once I get the piece cut to size. This is rolling up because this is only 3 ounce. This has already been split. So we're gonna have to check out Tandy. Hey everybody, quick update on the Keyway shop project here. I've just finished taking down all the stuff off the old shelving. That was a lot of work, but it is now done. So you can see here, this is where all of our equipment is gonna go. This one right here is gonna be a work surface where we can, prep things that come off the 3D printers or other projects that we're working on. I got the leather tabletop installed. Look at this thing. Beautiful. That thing's gonna age nicely. I've also got the papers that we're gonna be using for doing our like Keyway blueprints. So as we're working on a project, we're gonna be drawing it for you guys on these cool blueprint sheets that we've made ourselves in our own UV printer, which we'll also be showing you. Other than that, the ceiling is done, but I think you've already seen that. All finished, all glowing, epic lighting. Finally got the white balance right on all of our cameras. It's looking good in here. Time for electrical. Both these work shelves need power. So what we're gonna be doing is I've got independent circuits here and in behind this shelf here. We're gonna run over, up the wall, across, come down, and each one of these stations is gonna have a power bar so that we can plug in whatever we want and don't have to worry about running extension cords all the time. Starting on the next phase here. So with power run, I need walls, inside walls. So what we're doing is using this 3/8 sanded pine. It's really nice actually. It's all ready to go. We can throw shelves on this, we can hang stuff off it. And if you'll see all of these little brackets, what those are is these. These are little laser cut adapters that, show you how I'm doing this here. So they get pinned onto the shelf like this with a self-tapping metal screw, and then each board gets screwed into that bracket like that. So each upright uses 10 brackets. The ones that are on the end get half brackets because there's no panel going here, only on one side. So I have to cut 30 more longs and 30 more shorts. So if we pop out to the shop here, show you what's going on. So out here by the laser, we're at the Eon here. It's probably a little difficult to see, but see that thing pumping away? We're cutting out of, we got 1/4 inch Baltic birch ply. So that's what we're making the brackets out of. So I'm gonna cut 60 more brackets. All right, parts are done. I turned the air assist off so hopefully you can hear me. So this is how the parts come out. And of course they fall through the slats all the time. Cutting small parts on this laser is a pain in the butt because they all fall through. But not a big deal. Pull these parts off. And then the slats that they fell below, you just lift them off like that, and then you can reach down and grab them. And this speaks to the importance of having really good air assist. So air assist is the air that comes out of the tip of the nozzle. We run about 60 PSI, 50 PSI we run, but this is the benefit. See how clean those parts come out? This is straight out of the laser. Nothing, no soot ready to use, no cleaning. And you can only really get that if you run high power air assist. You also have to have your settings dialed in well for the material you're cutting. But if you don't have your air assist pumping, you will not get clean burns. You'll get flames coming out the bottom of your material, and you will just get massive, massive burning. So one thing to watch out for. We got all 60 cut. As you can see here, you might not have been able to see before because it was quite dark, but that is what it looks like straight out of the cutter when you have proper air assist. That's the edges, that's the cut edge, and it is completely clean, no soot. So make sure your air assist set up. Okay, let's get going. Got all brackets on now, 10 per, and now what we have to do is the same that has been done on this one here. I'm gonna slap that panel 4x8 on each one. I've just got to do that a few more times now. I'll update you if something more exciting happens. Side one, complete. We're good up to 8 feet. I still have to go back probably tomorrow and do the last 2 feet across the top so that it's completely sealed off. Not that you're really going to see much of that, but I do want to complete it because we're going to be having boxes and storage up there, and I don't want to be able to push things through to the other side. So we're all done for today. See you in the morning. We have all 6 bays all walled in now. Went pretty well. Still through the top 2 feet, but we're mostly done. All I have to do now is these two have to get end caps on them because they're also going to get soundproofing. So we'll get started on that now. So I'm going to start working on the back wall here. First thing we got to do is run some 2x4s across it so that I can mount my 4x8 sheets. Once that's done, we can start putting up the foam hexagons. That's going to be our soundproofing and will also be the background for the Keyway logos that we're going to put up on the wall. I must be tired. This is the 3rd time I have had to move this stud. It's supposed to be on center 8 foot, and I just made the bottom 8 foot and then rearranged it and made the top 8 foot. So 3rd time's the charm. Wall's coming together. I got 6 more panels to cut to complete this wall, and I've got 5 end caps to complete the hallway ends. So we're gonna head over to the workshop and get those cut up. I'm not sure why I didn't film any of that. Sorry. see what they look like. Okay. So, first impressions, they're a little dinged up. So we might have to, be a little careful how these get placed on the wall. Those are gonna look pretty good. I think those are gonna look really nice. If we can get the corners tight together, because the corners are all dinged up, you see that? So because these are gonna be sitting like this, the corners kind of have to be perfect for them to not have big gaps on the wall. But let's throw a few up and see how they look. We've got 12, I think. We got 12. So I can put up a small text in the middle of the wall and see how they look. I hate these guns. So I've got the laser set up so that we're going to be lining up these two corners across the laser. Squeeze the corners out to make sure that they get pointy again. All right, what do we think? Those actually look really, really good. They work well with the white balance in here. I think those are gonna look awesome when we get the whole wall covered. Okay, so it's almost perfect. But the board that I cut, I measured off of the shelving on this side of the room. And this side of the room, the shelving looks like about 1/8 of an inch closer together than this side. So I'm gonna take this panel back over to the side of the shop, rip a 1/4 inch off the table saw, and hopefully that's the last time I have to make an adjustment before getting this bolted in. Okay, let's try this again. Like a glove. Let's try the number 8s. Yeah.
Okay, we'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Now let's get the other side going. Okay, so let me show you what I did here. For mounting this corkboard, you need to have space behind the board so that you can slip the hooks in between the board and your backer material. Now, I could have done this with something like standoffs or off-the-shelf components, or what you can do is you can run strips in behind your board. But the problem is that blocks off entire rows of holes, and I hate doing that because then it messes with your organization when you're trying to put up your tools and stuff. So what I did instead is, because we have a laser cutter, I cut layers and layers of these little rings, which you would have just seen me assemble in that time lapse. So it's 3 layers thick, gives me 15 mil of spacing between the corkboard and the backer, and that gives enough space for the back of your hooks to go in behind the board and hook on without rubbing on the back material. So you can just do that, no problem. So next thing we're gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to go look online and find some accessory hangers, because we wanna be able to hang wrenches and hammers and screwdrivers and all that kind of stuff on these 2 boards. I also wanted to show you what the plan is for this wall here. So as we do projects and we explain what we're going to be doing, we're going to be doing an overhead drawing view on some black pieces of paper with some white paint pens. But in the middle of a project, you have to jot down some notes or do some equations or do some quick drawings, or I'm brainstorming with someone on the project. This wall here is going to have it's a 200-foot long roll of black 24-inch wide craft paper that is going to come down this wall like a scroll. And then on the bottom, there's gonna be another roll that has a crank on it that we're gonna laser cut in another video. And that's gonna allow us to draw, work on a project, do some equations, do some brainstorming, and then crank the bottom one. And the whole drawing is gonna pull down into the bottom one. And it's really gonna be like a giant historic scroll of the entire channel, which I think will be really cool to look back on in, a year or so, to be able to scroll back through this thing and see the history of everything we've worked on. So we're also going to date every video, or we're going to date every drawing that we do as it gets scrolled in. So when we bring this thing back out in the future, it'll be fun to look at what we were doing August 2023. So the roll arrives tomorrow. We're going to laser cut some mounts for it, laser cut all the strapping so that it fits in and hangs on this shelving nicely. And then we'll do a really quick little build video on how this goes together. The other 2 end caps in this room, this one and this one, are going to get the same soundproofing hexagons that we're doing on the back wall, but they're just going to be simple, cover them in that, and that's it. Whereas the back wall is going to get the Keyway Workshop logo that we're gonna do. All right, folks, we received some more tiles. Let's get them unpacked, get them on the wall. Just a few arrived today. Okay, here we go. Also, I think what I'm gonna do today is I'm gonna start on one of these end caps. Rather than continuing and finishing this wall, simply because I know for these end caps, I'm gonna have to cut a lot of these panels. These are about 12 inches wide the panels are 24 inches across, and so a lot of these are going to sit 2 by 2, but then the next row up is going to have a whole tile in the middle and then half tiles on the side, and I don't know how well these are going to cut. So I want to experiment with different ways of cutting on a surface that isn't going to be super visible all the time in footage. So we're going to start on the end caps, and then once I get the cutting process down, we'll move on to this wall, and then I know that I'm going to get a clean cut down the end. But we'll learn as we go. I think from what I read online, you can cut these with just a blade, with an X-Acto knife. So I'm going to try that, but of course I also have access to a bandsaw, a table saw, track saw, chop saw, basically every kind of saw you can think of. So we'll see what gives us the cleanest cut. They don't have any kind of back around them, and they're just felt. So I think just a blade is going to be enough. I don't see this being all that difficult to cut these. But I have been wrong before. So I'm going to shut up for a minute, and we will just time lapse through this. I hate this stuff. Okay, let's unpack these and see how damaged the corners are on a bunch of them. The first pack had been shipped just by itself in a bag, and so the corners got all mashed up in transit, but these ones were all shipped in boxes, and they don't look as bad. But it honestly didn't matter that much on the past shipment. I was able to squish the corners back out and get them fitting tightly together. Also, what I didn't show on the video last time is even the ones that don't fit together super tight. So I don't know if you can see this, but you see in the corner there how you can see a little bit of a divot there in the corner. What we did is after we put them up, we went in between each one with a fine tip Sharpie and just drew black on the wood in behind the panel, and that mixed with the shadow of the panels touching together was more than enough to hide the joints. Because I mean, these aren't perfect, right? They're not going to be perfectly flat and perfectly touching because they are flexible, and I am a human, so putting them up is not going to be perfect. But if we can hide those crimes with a little bit of Sharpie, then nobody is the wiser, except for everyone now because I just told you. Okay, back to time lapse. Some of these packs seem a little bit lighter than the others. What does that look like on camera? Yeah, it's not too bad, but in person, this one looks quite a bit lighter. But I guess what I'll do is I'll just take all the packs and shuffle them before putting them on the wall, so then at least there's a scattered appearance if the lighter ones do appear on camera. I don't think it's really gonna matter. They're not like a drastically different gray. I could have bought, I think there was one called Ice Gray or something, and it was much lighter. It was like closer to white than it was to gray. It just had flecks of gray and black in it. But I thought for filming in here, this would be a nice dark background. You can also get them in black, but black seemed too much for the background of filming in here, especially because the light is so bright. With a black background, I would probably just get completely bleached out, and then the background would just look like a void behind me, which is not really what I'm looking for. I want you to still be able to see it. Also, what we figured out is these pins, this operates as a corkboard. So we can use this, once that whole wall is up, we can use the entire wall as a corkboard, and you cannot tell for the life of you that there has been pins in this. So we have got this massive reusable corkboard that we can use for like brainstorming and planning out projects, hanging up pictures, hanging up drawings, whatever we want. We can move it around and never have to worry about damaging the tiles, which is pretty awesome. So thank you, Jeff, for thinking of that idea, because that is not something that crossed my mind. Okay, I'm gonna stop there for now because I think that's enough to do one of these 2x8 end caps. So let's get some adhesive on these, and then we'll get the laser level up the center of the board, find the center of the panel. That's gonna be where the middle of our first panel is gonna go. And then we will start covering that one, doing all our cuts, get comfortable, and then we'll continue on the wall over here. Okay, so we're using 3/4 inch adhesive transfer tape out of one of these little tape guns. I don't know if you've ever used one of these before. Maybe I'm just bad at it, but these things suck. The adhesive gets caught on the rollers so much and gets tangled up, and you have to constantly reroute stuff. I chose this 3/4 inch one versus, we have 1/2 inch ones as well. The 1/2 inch ones get caught way more. The 3/4 inch I haven't had too much trouble with. This one also is loaded with a thicker adhesive that actually has a liner in the middle. So you'll see that I'm like pulling a little harder to pull the adhesive off, but that also means it doesn't get tangled as easily. So it's worth it for not messing around with the gun. Okay, so I'll get these all adhesived up. Of course, as soon as I trash talk it, it works perfectly. But that was an entire roll, so I'll go get another one. Okay, fresh roll. That's what they look like in these. All right, that's probably the fastest I've ever loaded one of these things. Normally it takes a little longer than that. Let's see if I did it right. All right, back in business. Okay, I'm gonna stop there and leave some of these without adhesive, because these ones without adhesive I think I'm gonna use for the edges that I have to cut in half. And I don't really want to be putting them down on the table and cutting them with adhesive on the back. I'm also gonna go and get a piece of board that I can cut on right here without completely ruining my table. So I'm gonna get you spun around here. We'll look at the wall and keep moving. Okay, so I've just got a little laser level here that I'm gonna set up, I think on the floor, so that I have a vertical line all the way up the wall. Where did I put my tape measure? Okay. So the wall is exactly 24 inches wide. So we want our line at 12 inches. Okay, line is bang on 12. I want my first cell to be centered in the center of the wall, just because I can look nice. So that's going to be 48 inches up from the floor. So on the intersection of 48 inches and the laser is the middle of my first panel. I'm going to do the same orientation as the other wall, where I'm going to go vertical like this, meaning my widest point is going to be vertical rather than like this. I think it looks nicer. So, first panel, middle, right there, 48 inches. I'm going to come over, line up my bottom on my laser, line up my top on my laser. Really press that adhesive on. I'm not sure if you can even see that laser. Can you even see that? Not really. Let's turn off the light here. Let's see if, does that help? A little bit. You can, okay, you can't really see in the camera, but there is a laser line all the way to the ceiling. I wonder if there's a better place I can mount this. I don't think so. Let's just move ahead. How satisfying is that? The panels are exactly 1 foot wide. 2 panels makes up the width. I'm going to be able to cut a panel directly down the center. It's going to fit here and here. Chef's kiss. Kind of gives you rug burn. There's probably a better way to adhere to this. I'm gonna actually put a glove on because that's gonna take the skin off my palm real quick, especially if I'm doing another 100 on that wall. Way better. I can push way harder with the glove on. Oh, it's gonna look great. What do you guys think? Is this gonna look sharp? Am I going crazy? It's gonna look good. I think it's gonna look awesome. You can tell though, some of those panels are darker. Can you tell on camera? Yeah, you can. So I'm trying to mix it up here. I'm trying to go like top, bottom, mixing up the selection of panels. That's okay. This workshop is not meant to be perfect. This workshop is really meant to be a learning experience for you guys, for me, for everyone at Keyway. It's just for experimenting, for learning, for playing around. There's going to be a lot of mistakes on this channel because a lot of this channel is going to be following me, and I make a lot of mistakes. And most mistakes are behind the scenes, and no one gets to see them, and that's no fun. So now, you get to go along on the ride with me of screwing things up on the daily. Hopefully, in the process, I can prevent one of you from making the same mistake. Come on. Come on. That's satisfying. That's nice. I got a step stool around here somewhere. Okay. I'm actually off the top a little bit. I'm not sure how to manage that. Went off the center. Oh, it's obviously just because when I slid that in, I didn't do it bang on the center. Not a problem. Okay, so we're at the point now where we have to cut some panels. So the first thing I'm going to try is just cutting it with a blade. Let's try that. Let's see here. So I get a fresh, that's fairly good. Need a ruler. Oh no, you know what I need? I need a roller knife. Hold on. This is what I need, rotary cutter. So this might not get all the way through because you can see the blade depth is I think it's only 3/8, and this is a little bit thicker than that. So I'm probably gonna have to finish the cut with a normal blade, but this is amazing for cutting materials like this that are soft and have fibers. It's really good for fabrics, leather, stuff like that. It doesn't rip the front, it like pushes and cuts like a pizza cutter. So I'm gonna do the first pass with the rotary, and then I think I might have to finish with a blade. Sometimes you can get through it just by pushing a little harder, but let's cut one of these in half and see how it goes. Okay, so let's try and get these corners as sharp as I can so that I know where center is. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's see how this goes. Oh, it cuts like butter. Look at that. Wow, that cuts so cleanly. But I couldn't get through, so we're gonna finish it off with a blade. I might just lean off the edge here a little bit. Wow. Look at that cut. It literally felt like I was cutting like really hard styrofoam. Just like absolute butter. I wish I had a thicker rotary knife. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 panels cut exactly like this. So I'm gonna do that right now. If you just push through it, you can get through with one pass. Oh, I'm very happy with how these cut. I was worried I was gonna be fraying all over the place here. This is not real felt. Real in the sense that it's made of wool. This is polyester. Are those polyester? Polyester? I'll have to check the listing. Pretty sure they're polyester. And you know what it feels like? It almost feels like cutting balsa. It feels like slicing through balsa wood. Just extremely soft, but it has that crunchy, fibrous sound as you're going through it. It's really interesting to cut. And I'm just lifting up a little bit as I cut here to allow the panel to split so that I can see that my blade is following down the center. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4. I need one more of these. And then there's some odds and ends that I need to cut, like the top panel. And I think I need to cut, actually that's it. I just need halves, and then I need a few bottoms and tops. But I'll do that stuff off camera, and we'll just do the assembly part on camera. I wonder if this might be easier if I have this pressed over. Ah, see, now I can see my cut the whole time. Okay, that's 5 pieces. Let's get adhesive on all of these and continue working. Okay, good to go. Spin you back around here. Let's get this going. That's the panel. That's the panel that I meant. Can you see that down at the bottom there? Yeah, that's the panel that I meant, where it's just the top of a hexagon that has to get cut. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to require 2 full panels to make those missing pieces. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold a piece up there, and well, I also need to cut this off, so let's just do that now. So now this is going to go here. So I need to cut from here to here. Now I need 2 of those pieces, so I'll just duplicate that cut using itself as a stencil. Okay, now the bottom, and then we're good. These ones are going to be a little trickier because I don't have a way to measure. I do have a piece there that I cut those 2 corners off of. I think what I'm going to have to do, oh, well, it goes directly to a corner, so all I have to do is go corner to corner. Yeah. Okay, last 2 pieces. All right, let's take a closer look here. So that gives you a pretty good idea of how easy this is to do by yourself. I mean, I used double-sided tape, which you can buy without having the tape gun. You can get it in sticks and rolls and a whole bunch of different things to do this yourself. This was 2 packs, I think. Each pack was 35 bucks, so you're looking at $70 to do half of a 4x8 sheet, and it looks awesome. Look at that. And it is gonna look absolutely crazy when we do this entire back wall. All right, guys, we're back again. So, one more end cap to do, and then we'll start on the back wall. I'm just gonna jump into it this time because you already saw how it all works. We're gonna go laser. This time I'm gonna start at the bottom so that it matches the exact placement of the other panel, and let's just get into it. Okay, so the way I laid out the center on that one actually worked out a little bit high, a little above center, so instead of trying to match that on the center, I'm just gonna start at the same place on the floor. Okay, here we go. That's our starting point. I'm seeing that this panel, the corner didn't quite line up where I wanted it to, so this will be the first test of how bad these are to take off. Oh, okay, not bad, but we lost a little adhesive, so I'm gonna have to redo the strips on this. Should only take 2 seconds. That did stick really well though. Definitely not going to be falling off accidentally. Okay, I think what happened was I didn't choose the sharpest corner for the bottom where I'm doing the alignment. So I think I was just off by a little bit because of the radius of the corner. So I'm going to pick a sharper corner this time. And I'm not going to push that one down. I'm going to set this one up first. Okay, that's a lot better. Also, it might be hard to tell on the camera there, but I took about 3 packs of these panels and mixed them all up so that I wasn't getting any repeats of the similar colors, because we found from the last patch that a couple of batches are a little bit darker than the rest. So instead of getting patches of darker and patches of lighter, I wanted to keep it as random as possible by just mixing the panels before I even put them on the wall. So I think we'll get a lot more consistent look on this panel. I just realized as I was doing this, the laser was not helping me because this panel is attached to our shelving, which is straight, but it's not perfectly straight. There's probably about 1/8 of an inch or 1/16 or 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch from top to bottom. This is a 12-inch or a 12-foot tall shelf. So being out by 1/4 inch over 12 feet is not bad, but if I'm trying to use it for my center line and I'm trying to go exactly 12 by 12, it's not a good idea. So instead, we're going by eye, which by the end will actually look better than if I tried to follow the laser. The really difficult part is going to try to be keeping straight lines across the back wall, which is 10 feet tall and 8.5 feet across. So there's a lot of pieces to keep centered there. We're going to have to use the laser more for that. Okay, we're at the top, and we are exactly where we were on the other panel, which is perfect, meaning I need to trim off about 1/2 inch off the top of this guy. So we're just going to do that with this blade here. Okay. Now we'll continue on with all the half panels, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then 4 remaining corners. I'll get the adhesive applied off camera. We're back with the half panels. Let's get those up. This wall's going up a lot quicker than the first one, as you can tell. Great, as you become more comfortable with the project, how much quicker things go. Some of these panels are cut ever so slightly off center, which is my fault, but it actually works well because one side of this is a 1/16 of an inch offset, so the wider panels can go on this side, the slimmer panels can go on this side, making everything look perfect. And no one is the wiser, except for everyone watching this video. I'm a short one. Okay, same thing. Tops need to get nipped off. 4 quarter panels, and we are done this wall. And we can start on the back. I've got one leftover panel here, so I'm going to use this for the top. I'm just going to mark where the adhesive needs to go to, and then I'm going to cut it up there on the spot. Okay, so I'm going to stick this one up and then cut it. Beauty. One more. Still got a quarter of a panel here, or a 1/6 of a panel, I guess. And that'll give me my one last one, so I'm gonna mark this with the knife. And put some adhesive on that. Okay, we're good. The bottom 2 panels, because we started right against the floor, I can just take a panel and cut corner to corner on 2 sides. And that will give us our 2 bottom pieces. So on the bottom panel, I just need that piece, and I need that piece, and that will go down there. Okay, last 2 pieces. All right. How's it look? Pretty good? Very happy with how well this one went and how quickly it went up. It's kind of hard to see in the darkness here. Let me turn you up a little bit. Hey, not bad, right? Okay, so it's time for the back wall now. This one's gonna be a little bit more work. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.5 packs to put up at 12 panels each, so I've got my work cut out for me. Thankfully, there's not a lot of complicated cuts. There's gonna be some cutting in half and some weird stuff in the corners. Mostly it's gonna be just slapping up panels. All right, let's get started here. So first I'm gonna unpack all of these and do the same thing I did on the panels, where I'm going to mix them up randomly so that we don't get strips of the same color. Sorry for the noise. All right, so let's get one of each from all of these stacks. Just keep mixing it up. If I had known this color problem was gonna be an issue when I opened the first panel and put it up, I would have started now. So you're probably gonna see that this center of the wall is one color, and then it's gonna be randomized as we move out to the walls, which isn't really a problem. It's gonna kind of look cool that there's a solid color center, and then it changes a little as it moves from the center. It'll be a little organic. I think it's gonna look nice either way. But something to note if you do buy these panels, these are, what brand are these? These are the Boobus acoustic panel. They're on Amazon. And I'm sure this is just a manufacturing anomaly where they come out a little bit different from the die as they make these. Not a big deal, and not something that I would complain about. It's just, this just happens when you're buying things like this in bulk. You know, these aren't specifically sold to cover a wall that's 100 square feet, right? Most people buy these in small packs, and then they do small little designs with them. This is one of the larger panels that I've seen done with the 12-inch panels. There was also an option for these to come with adhesive on the back. They were like a massive sticker, but these were like $35 Canadian for a pack of 12. And I think the adhesive variety was like $130, which would have taken the cost of this wall from, you know, $300 to over $1,000 or something like that. And the work and the adhesive that I'm putting on these is definitely not worth an extra $800. So I figured I would do it myself and save the expense. I don't know if you can see that whole stack in camera, but that's how many are going on this wall. Yeah, you can see it. Okay, let's get started. I've also got, I've got 4 rolls of adhesive here ready to go, but it looks like I'm using about a roll every pack and a half. So I'm gonna need probably about 5 or 6 of these adhesive rolls, which might actually tap me out. I'm not sure if I've got enough to even finish the wall, but let's just get started. Now I'm gonna be doing the same thing the whole time where I'm bending out these little corners. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bend out the corners, apply the adhesive, and go straight to the wall so that I'm not getting too many built up on my work table here. So I'm gonna get this laser level turned back on, which should still be set up how I had it before. Yes, it is. And I'm basically gonna work across and then work up and down. Now I also don't have a full panel here, which means I'm gonna have to do a lot of cutting. But I'm gonna save all the cuts for the end, including, you can't see it, but there's an outlet down there. I'm gonna just build around that for now, do all those cuts at the end, do all the side cuts, bottom cuts, and top cuts at the end, so we're just gonna build out the easy stuff to start with. Normally I like starting with the hard stuff, but unfortunately the hard stuff is at the edges, and I can't start with that. So this one should be the same, where I'm taking off about 2 inches. Yes, it is, which means I measured properly. Yeah, you can already see that one in the corner there, this one here is darker than the rest. So that's where things are gonna change. Not a problem. Not a problem. I'm gonna try and repeat the same actions on both sides of the center. That way, if there is some drift in my technique, it's gonna happen symmetrically, rather than me moving in one direction and then moving in another. So I do want this wall to, it's not gonna be perfect, but I do want it to look symmetrical. It's gonna be in a lot of videos, so it's gotta look nice. I'm definitely seeing some cracks forming here. So this one here was very tight, and this one's got quite a big gap, so I'm gonna pull this panel down. So after about a week, that adhesive is very, very stuck on there. Okay, let's get that re-adhesived and back on the wall, a little more centered. Okay, much happier with that. More uniform gaps now. Moving on. Also, to the early people on this channel, please tell me how this sounds. I do have a lapel mic that I can be using. It's a little bit of a pain in the butt because you got to make sure it's turned on and synced with the camera every time you use it. I would hope that this is providing a little bit of dampening so that even when I'm talking directly to the camera now, it doesn't sound too bad, it's not too echoey. But if it does sound like crap, tell me, and I'll start using the lapel mic. I mean, this isn't meant to be studio quality audio, but I also don't want it to be painful to listen to. So, let me know. It's really tempting to push them tight together to try and minimize the gaps, but you just end up creating more problems as you move out from your start point because you just compound the issue as you move away. And you're trying to you're trying to complete these gaps that are down here, and you end up actually pressing on the side, which changes the overall dimension of the panel. So although the gaps don't look great, you're actually best off leaving the little gaps in the corners and then going over them with the Sharpie like we are gonna do. So you really just want to get it snug, but don't try and push those gaps together. That is if you're trying to complete a panel that's as large as the one I'm doing right now. If you're doing a smaller panel, then, I mean, go ahead and squish the gaps together as best you can. It really depends on your application. We were also thinking about painting this wall black before we started, so that we didn't have any visible spots in between, but that just seemed like a waste of paint and a waste of time because 99.9% of it was going to get covered. It would have prevented the need to go over anything with Sharpie, but you know, this wall was already a large enough project. I didn't really want to involve a day of painting instead. Although this is going together quicker than I thought it was. Okay, start working down now. Start working down to the floor, and then I'll get up on the step stool and the ladder and start working my way to the ceiling. Save that part for the end. Okay, I don't think these lasers really help me anymore. Get rid of that instead of constantly blinding myself. Okay, there goes another roll. So how many was that? That is an expense that you'd have to calculate in, though, if you're doing a wall like this, because this adhesive is, it's not the cheapest thing in the world. It's definitely, I think, one of the easiest ways to do it, but it's not the cheapest. There are some brands that sell the panels with little adhesive squares that you stick on the back, but from the reviews I was reading, a lot of people said that the adhesive was either not strong enough or not large enough. Most of them were sold with 4 or 6 little 1-inch squares, and I guess it really depends on what you're adhering to. For us, we're going onto this sanded pine ply, and it's this stuff's sticking really, really well. But if you're using a cheaper adhesive or one that doesn't bond to wood, you're gonna have a problem if you're only using 1 square inch. Taking this panel down if I ever wanted to is not going to be a good time because I am burying all of the screws that hold it onto the 2x4 framing. But, I mean, honestly, it's not that expensive of a wall to put up, so I would probably just have to tear it down. Although I guess I do have the video evidence of where the screws are, and they are pretty intentionally placed. So I could measure and, you know, rip off panels or cut. I would probably rip off panels because then I could just put the exact same panels back on with new adhesive. This is looking good so far. What do you think? I think this is gonna be a nice look, especially once we get the white Keyway logo up on the wall with the laser cut acrylic. We've also got a cool project in store for these pegboards that I just put up. We're gonna be working on a project with Jeff Mack Designs to create some very special custom laser cut bins for these two. So stay tuned for that project video. That's going to be a fun one. Fun one if you're into watching laser cut design videos and listening to me babble. I think these videos are going to be a lot of me babbling and, you know, you keeping me company, I'm keeping you company while we're working here. So if you're into that kind of thing and you're into listening to me babble while at work, then be sure to join me. I'll be sharing my experiences, sharing what I learned, sharing what I already know, teaching about lasers, teaching about some of the, you know, maker experience that I've got. So I think it's going to be a good time. I'm certainly going to have fun making these videos and talking to you guys. You're also going to see some other people appear from time to time, some other Keyway employees that are going to be making their own style of videos. You might not be seeing their faces. Some people will come on camera, some won't. I'm not going to be making anyone get on camera if they don't want to, if they're not comfortable. So some people are just going to be making, you know, over-the-shoulder videos. You're going to see just, you know, their hands and what they're working on, and it's going to be more focused on just a project kind of ride-along video, whereas mine are going to be a little bit more babbly, as these are. Babbly and personable. You'll be getting to know me a little bit more as I talk to myself while I'm working. Ew, this panel's dirty on the back. That's okay. I think my decision to jumble these tiles is paying off, because I can see where the packs change, but it doesn't look bad. How does it look on camera? Oh yeah, you can see it. You can see the panel changing. Slowly dwindling down this stack. Everyone's gonna come in tomorrow and be very surprised that this wall is finished. At least they better be. I got a couple of complicated cuts down around that electrical box. I'm not excited for that. This kind of reminds me of a monochrome version of our cellular case. If you've seen that on our website, it's been a popular one for a long time now. It's a honeycomb design just like this. It's got some laser engraved cells, and it's got some cells that are randomly placed with a bunch of other woods. And it's kind of cool because each one is different, because the panels are cut out individually, and then they're filled in with the wood that's cut in bulk, and they're just held in little containers. And then we assemble them one by one. So every cellular case that you get is going to be completely unique, which is pretty fun. People seem to like it. They're a lot of work though, but I feel like this wall kind of pays homage to that design, which has been with us for a very long time. We've had that design for, oh my goodness, probably the better part of a decade. And it still sells well. So we never got rid of it. We have changed it over time. We've simplified it a little bit, the way that we produce it, so that we can do a little bit more volume of the design. The way that we were producing it earlier on was not conducive to making multiple of them. So as our volume increased on our online sales, it became very difficult to produce them. So we've changed it up a little bit. Quality's still the same, but the design has changed. As we've grown, you know, in size and employees and volume, we've had to adjust some of our manufacturing techniques to accommodate the new volume, because what we didn't want to do was sacrifice the quality and just rush through the production process. So instead of rushing and sacrificing the build, we adjusted the design to accommodate. And we've done that with several things over the years, and all of them have seemed to pay off. I don't know if you can see this panel on there. That's going to be a pain in the butt. I've got to cut one of the diagonals. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to cut that one. I might have to make a template, do a quick little paper template and cut that off. I don't know how much of this you're going to even hear. I'm going to time lapse a whole bunch of this, but you might just see the time lapse in between me talking. What you can't see is this tape gun repeatedly failing on me and getting very annoying. I'm not quite sure yet what I'm going to do with these two panels. This one here and this wall over here, this little light gray blue wall. That's part of the original back wall of the warehouse, and it obviously didn't get covered with this honeycomb wall because it goes in behind the shelving. So I might put some wood panels up inside of these shelves, so they come up flush to the honeycomb and they go up against the back of the wood paneling that we put in there, just because I really hate that wall color. Although on the right hand side there, this one's going to be mostly full with our pigment rack. So you're not gonna see much of this because this rack is gonna be mounted right here. And then we're gonna have all these extra pigments that we have in below them. So you're not gonna see a whole lot of that, but down here, there, over there, you will. And I'll know it's there, and I hate it. If it were just a normal gray, it wouldn't be too bad. And I'm not sure if you can tell on camera, but it's this it's a very cool gray. It's almost like a very, very, very light baby blue. And it's just a weird color for a warehouse. We obviously didn't paint it. It was painted like that when we moved in. And being that it is 1,000 square feet with 14-foot tall ceilings, we didn't find it necessary to repaint it. The other part of our warehouse, we did paint. And I'll show you that wall in another video. It's quite cool. It's a 35-foot wide wall, 14-foot tall again, and it's completely done up on a angular design with barn board, 2 different colors of barn board, and LED accent lighting. It looks really, really cool. Oh, you know what? I actually have a time lapse. I have a time lapse of us building that wall that I don't think I've ever shared. So when we do our shop tour video, I'll include a build video of that wall. The shop tour video is going to be one of our first things that we do here, just so you guys can see all the equipment that we have available here. It might actually go up before this video does. We will see. So you may have already seen the wall by the time I'm saying this. So I was right to start in the middle. The gaps are getting a little more prominent as we get away from the starting point, which is not really a problem because we're now at the floor, and I'm glad that it's not at eye level. All right, there goes another roll, flying through these things. We're 5 or so rolls in right now. That's the original. They're not huge. They don't go that far. And I think they're like $15 a roll. So that's why I was saying you would have to account for this price if you did decide to go this method. It's probably not the cheapest. Okay, back at it. I think I've got, oh man, 1 panel left on the ground that, 2 panels left on the ground that don't need cutting. Everything after that requires custom cuts. So it's time to go towards the ceiling. And the reason that the reason you're hearing me babble so much, and this is off the cuff, is because I wanted these videos to be something that I can put together as I'm prototyping, as I'm working on a new project, or I'm messing around in the shop, testing out a new technique, messing around with some new equipment, maybe working on a new product design, or I just come up with a cool thing that I want to try. I didn't want to be messing around with scripting and setting up lights and complicated camera rigging. I really just wanted to be able to grab a camera, set it up really quick, hop into a video, start talking to you guys, and really just mess around. So, you know, the production quality and the scripting of these videos is not going to be Hollywood level here. This is really just going to be like people having a conversation, chatting, working on a project together. So if you're into that kind of thing and you think that'd be interesting, then I think you're going to like this. But if you're looking for polished, scripted videos like some other guys on YouTube that produce amazing works, this might not be the place for you. Just being honest, because I tend to move a little quickly when I work on projects, and if I took the time to set up complicated rigging and complicated shots and camera angles and microphones and lights, then I would either sacrifice the quality of the project and the quality of my prototyping skills, or I would sacrifice the quality of the shots, and then there'd be no point in filming it to begin with. That's the whole point about this roof. This ceiling in this shop was set up to provide a instant light source for any video that's done in here that is lit from basically all angles and provides no shadows. Visually, it looks pretty cool, but it's also very practical. I originally saw this idea on Unbox Therapy, which I'm sure many of you have seen the videos from. Theirs is obviously a lot larger than ours and a lot more complicated. They have full RGB control of, I think, every single panel, maybe every single strip. I'm not sure. But Lou and the guys over at that channel have an amazing setup. But I think their studio is like 10,000 square feet or something. Or maybe that's their whole shop, I don't know. But their studio looks massive. It looks like the Batcave from Christopher Nolan's Batman. Looks absolutely amazing. But I had read that the purpose of that room for them was so that they didn't have to worry about setting up lighting and rigging on every shot. And I think that is probably very conducive to the creativity of the videos when you're not focused on setup. Especially when we don't have a film crew and everything here where, you know, I can be setting up my project while someone else sets up the cameras and lights and shots. And maybe one day when we've been doing videos for longer and, you know, things trend in that direction of production quality. But for now, and we're getting started in this new venture. We're going for simplicity. Simplicity in the shots here, I think, is going to be the name of the game. I've also adopted some things from other channels that I watch, things that I've either aspired to or, you know, have watched for a long time and just like the way they do things. The camera rig that you're watching me on right now is actually this kind of a gooseneck build from Adam Savage's Tested. It's the camera mount that he came up for and he uses. It's using hydraulic lock line for the neck of the camera and a clamp system on the base with an iPhone mount at the top. So moving the camera around and setting up a new shot takes about 3 seconds. And it is super flexible in the way that you can use it. I didn't do a build video on this one because mine's a little crude. I think I will do a build video on it because I've made a few modifications to it that Adam didn't in his video, but clearly the design idea is all his and I love it. I got that from his video because I've been watching him since I was a little kid. Him on Mythbusters was a huge inspiration for me to get into the field that I actually am in now, in engineering and in design, and he's really the reason I got into the whole field. Not the business side of things, but the design and engineering and creativity and just the whole attitude that he brought to the show when I was a kid was unreal. I loved the Mythbusters. So as I grew up and as he grew up and moved away from the Mythbusters and started Tested, started a whole new venture. I've been following along with him, and I really like the way that he films, the way that he tells stories, and the way that he creates his content, and a lot of the rationale for the way that he films and the way that he designed that camera mount resonated with me, and so I figured that would probably be the perfect mount to use for a lot of this filming. You're going to see some other shots that are filmed with a little bit more complicated rigs. I've got a macro lens and a DSLR off camera that we're going to use for some more detailed shots that you wouldn't be able to capture with this mount. But for the majority of the videos that you see, you're going to be seeing shot on an iPhone sitting on the top of this 3 foot long lock line. it's quite funny looking to see when you walk into the room. Several people have walked through here so far and been like, what is this? And I have to explain to them why it's built like this. But I love it. And I think once you watch the build video on it, you probably will too. I'll include down in the links of this video the link to Adam Savage building his. And then that'll give you an idea of what I'm talking about. And then when I do a build video of my own, you'll be able to see how we did things differently, how we did things the same. There's a few pieces on mine that are a little crude right now that I think I'd like to 3D print instead. So once we get the 3D printers in here and start messing around with that as a series of videos, I will probably do a video on remaking the pieces that I don't like. And I mean, that might even be a cool little side product to just throw online, because if you wanted to get into filming a vlog or a simple video like this, it's a really, really good mount. It beats a tripod, it beats a clamp. This one here, this is a Manfrotto arm, and it's great, but it's not as versatile as this mount, because setting it up is still cranking this thing, setting your camera up, cranking it back down, and I've got this thing's hollow, so I've got a charging cable running down through the center of it, and unclamping it from the table. It's just a wood clamp. Whereas this one, you've got to unscrew this thing, and it only goes to about 2 inches wide. Whereas this one opens up to 6 inches. So when I go into the shop and set it up on a workbench, I can clamp it to my workbench, I can clamp it to a wall, I can clamp it to a door frame. Many of the shots that you've been watching so far in this build have been clamped onto a 2-inch workbench and then moved over and clamped onto a 3/4 inch live shelf, and then back onto here with a 1 second adjustment. So it's super, super handy. The only catch is it only handles a light camera. You're not going to stick an SLR on the end of this lock line. It'll just sag. But if you're putting an iPhone on it, which I am, it can definitely handle an iPhone. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 4 more panels before we have to start going chop happy on the rest of these panels. Let's see if we can get this done tonight. That would be awesome. Everyone's quite excited to see how this wall turns out. Man, it's going together fast though. How does this look on camera? Oh yeah, that looks fantastic. So 48 minutes so far. This is what it's taken me to do this batch. That is very quick, I think. Okay. There goes a roll. So based on what I'm looking at, I think we're gonna need 2 more rolls, which I do luckily have in stock. Okay, time for a break. Back in a minute. All right, we're back. So these top panels are going to be a little bit more of a pain in the butt, because I have to first of all measure the distance from the bottom corner to the roof line, and then transfer that onto a tile and cut it. Now I think the way I'm going to do that is I've got a fine white pen here. And I'm gonna basically hold that against the ceiling and make 2 marks. Does that make sense? Let's cut one and try. I've got a few extras. And hopefully, I know my roof line is quite straight and my tiles are quite straight. So if I can get one of these correct, I should be able to just repeat the cut over and over again. I'm going to cut this one a hair larger than I just measured, so that if I need to sneak up on the cut, I can. So I've cut this one a hair large, Yeah, that's gonna work nicely. So I'm gonna need to trim off what I thought was the oversize. Just about a 1/16 of an inch, maybe a 1/4 of an inch. And then I'll be able to use this piece as a template all the way across. I'm gonna check it across the top before I start, but. Okay, there we go. Now let's check it all the way across. Let's see if I can just duplicate this piece. And the answer is yes. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of these. And how does this line up with the ground? Okay, the ground ones are bigger. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That exact same size. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Let's cut 8 of these to this size. Using the first one as a guide. All right, we got 8 panels. Let's get some adhesive on these. Get these installed. Okay, that part went a lot faster than I was expecting. That's great. Okay. So next up, what we're going to do is these side panels. These ones are going to be pretty straightforward because I can actually access the side to cut. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically hold it up there and run the blade down the wall because I can actually access a slot. So if I were to just put this piece here, tuck that in, and then run this blade down the side here, that's not great. We'll save that one for the bottom. Plan B. So, plan B is going to be just being a little more careful. And then same thing, I think I'll be able to use this one as a template for all the rest of the panels that go down this right side because this is also quite straight. Oh, it's 10 times better. So, we're going to repeat that again because this piece fits all the way. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cut those up. I sometimes have to slow myself down because I get a little excited when I get started on a project and get in the swing of things. And sometimes that ends up with me rushing through a process and sometimes not doing it as well as I could if I took my time and thought about what I was doing. So, I'm gonna slow this down a little bit and do it properly. Okay, we got 5 panels. Time for adhesive. Okay, now this panel here and this panel here are both under half. So I need to cut 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But they only need to be half panels. So 6 is going to do both sides. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if I save the other side of these, they're going to work for that side. I'm just going to quickly work out here if I have enough panels to finish this. So those 6 are gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 panels there, and 6 panels there. I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more full-ish panels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more full, almost full panels. And then I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 more panels to complete the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, I have got 5 panels to spare. I would say that I did my calculations for this wall pretty close. Pretty close. But I had this entire wall planned out and those 2 panels all planned out in CAD. So I was expecting that it was going to be pretty close to my my plan. So 6 panels, cut to that size. We're going to use the same technique that I just used because that worked. This is a white gel pen, for those of you wondering how I'm drawing on a black panel. You're going to see a lot of those in the future on this channel because we're going to use them for, we're going to be drawing out the plans for projects on black paper using white pens and markers. You'll understand more in the next video when I do the center panel with the black craft paper like I explained before. Sorry guys, I guess I'm not including a whole lot of this cutting shot here, so let's look at what we're doing here. See how easy that is to reposition the camera? That's why I love this camera. No setting up a tripod, no changing clips, you just bend it. Is it gonna last forever? I don't know how long that lock line material will last before it gets too loose to hold up the camera, but that's the beauty of it. You just snap off the lock line and put on a new piece, and it's not expensive, and then boom, you're back to a brand new mount. It's modular, you know, you can take off pieces that you don't either want anymore or the pieces that aren't performing right anymore, and you just make it a whole new mount. It's also modular because that, modular and customizable, because that lock line comes in 5-foot lengths, and you can make your mount 3 inches tall or 3 feet tall. Mine here is about 2.5 feet tall, which is, I think, good for my purposes, but if you want to make yours shorter that just sits very close to your desk, you can. Or if you want to make it really long so you can get overhead shots, you can do that too. You just have to be careful as you make it longer that you only go really kind of vertical with your camera, because the longer it gets, the longer the lever arm you have, and so you can't hold the camera out at the distance. So mine's about 3 feet long and it works for going vertical, but if I tried to hold the camera straight out at a 90 degree, it would sag, it would fall over. I haven't dropped the iPhone yet, but I've come close. Okay, back to the wall. All right, let's get those panels on. Sawdust on that one. Okay, so this last one, I'm gonna need to, I think I'm best off measuring this one and cutting it. So the length I need from the top of the panel to here is 19.5 centimeters. Yes, I work in centimeters. Sometimes. If you grew up in the 90s, you'll know what I mean. I grew up half of my life operating in inches and half of it operating in centimeters. My parents taught me a lot of stuff in inches, and then through school we were switching over to centimeters at that point in the 90s, and so half of my half of my systems are in inches and half of them are in metric. So you will hear me switch back and forth between metric and imperial all the time. It's very confusing. It's confusing for me too. Most 90s kids experience the same thing growing up. So if I'm talking about speed, I use kilometers. If I'm talking about distance, I'll often use kilometers. But if I'm dealing with weight and it has to do with a person, I'll use pounds. If I'm using weight and it has to do with, cooking, then I'll use grams. But sometimes I also use cups and ounces because it depends on the recipe. If I'm working in really small mechanical designs, I'll work in thou because it's very accurate and a lot of design software operates in thou. So it gets really confusing. Okay, my bottom one to the floor. This one is 24.3 centimeters. So 24.3 centimeters. Okay. Looking good. So let's focus on that wall now. I'm gonna change you so you can kind of see what I'm doing as well. See what I'm cutting. Okay. So, same technique again. We're gonna come over here. My gel pen's kind of failing me, so I'm gonna switch to a paint pen. This is my sharpest paint pen. That works. Okay. So, do one cut here to make our template. Make sure that fits. Perfect. I need 1, 2, 3, 4 more. And those are my 4. So, I'm going to use this piece as a template. And I'm just setting it on top and I'm riding the knife along the edge here. And I'm just being careful not to skim my template with the knife. It's pretty easy though, you don't have to push very hard. One thing that's important when you're using a template like this and you're cutting the next one, make sure to use your original as you keep moving through, rather than using the progressive ones that you've cut as you move along. That way you save yourself from adding error every time you cut the next piece. If I use this piece, and then I cut this piece, and then I use this next one as my next template, and this one was off by a millimeter or two, then my next one is going to be off by a millimeter plus the error of that next cut. So you compound your problems. So you got to remember every time, just take your piece off, remove the piece you just cut, and keep using the same piece as a template so that you don't compound your problems. This doesn't apply to this. This applies to basically every kind of cutting. If you're doing crafting or you're doing anything where you're using a template, you always want to keep reusing the same piece and not making a new template from your cut pieces. I'm sure a lot of people already know that, but if you've never thought of it, think of it next time. Okay, we got 5 pieces. Let's get adhesive on these, get them up on the wall. Unfortunately, I don't think these are going to be usable for anything. And I'm going to need another roll of adhesive. Okay. Can I get one more? Alright. Let's change this adhesive out. Here, I'll show you a little closer up because these are a bit of a pain in the ass to load. So if you've ever messed with one of these before, you'll know how frustrating they can be. So you pull off all your old material. So this is how it starts. It's got a little tab on it. So you pull that until you expose this sticky part here. So the roll goes on with the adhesive facing down, coming off with the roll like that. You roll it over the top silicone, under the bottom silicone, pull it tight, and stick it back to the exposed adhesive, and then wrap it around the back roller, and then start tensioning it by pulling the trigger and feeding the adhesive underneath itself. Then you can let go, kind of tension it up. So now what you've got is you've got exposed adhesive here and all the way down here, but you only want the adhesive at the bottom where you're going to apply it to your material. So what I do is I stick my finger to it and pull the adhesive up like this and rip it. Pull it down to the exposed side of the roller and take that little bit off. Now there's a cap that goes over top of this roll to keep all the waste from spooling up and making a mess inside the gun. That's really it. Close that up, and we should be ready to fire again. Might be okay. Let's get this arm out of the way. So this is one of the reasons that I don't like this one. It's really rigid, but you have to unclamp it, and then that's your clamping mechanism. It works really well. It's rigid. This is solid aluminum, so you can clamp onto a surface really, really, really tight. But that's about as wide as you can go. So you've got about a 2.5 inch throat on the clamp there. And then if you want to clamp it smaller, you've got to screw this back in. So it takes a little bit of time to reposition the clamp. And if you're clamping to something that's thicker than that, then you're out of luck. And if you have your camera mounted to a clamp that can't attach to what you want to attach it to, you now have to take your camera off your mount, attach it onto a different type of mount, move your camera over, and get back into the swing of your shoot. Which, for me, with the speed that I like to work, is it's honestly just too much of a pain to do. And so I find myself just not shooting the details of something because it's too much of a pain if I have to move the camera around. So I need it to be as seamless as possible. Okay, one more piece of the ceiling, and then we are off to using these leftovers from the other side to cut our small sections. Okay, so back to the same technique. Paint pen, mark, make a template. This is my good piece. Okay, double check my size. So we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 1, so I need 5 more of these. And then I'm just left with this little scrap, which I think it's gonna be garbage. Oh, we're back to the same technique again. Are you able to see this here? So, line up. Score. I was using the rotary knife to cut these, which worked really well, except for the fact that the diameter of the blade is not deep enough to go through these panels without riding against the body of the knife, and it was just becoming a little bit of a pain in the butt. I had to push really hard, and I was ending up denting panels on the side of the cut. So I switched over to a blade, and it works well as long as you don't try and go through in one pass, which is why you're seeing me do 3 or 4 scores each time. It's the same as cutting like thick piece of cardboard or something like that. If you try and get through it in one pass, you're either going to slip and cut yourself, or you're going to tear up the surface of the material. So the first pass is really to get through the surface without any tear out, and then you're just working through the inside of the material. Just taking my time here, making sure I'm not ruining any of these panels, since we now know that I only have a couple of spares for the entire project. Okay, 6 pieces. Let's get them on the wall. I think I can do the rest of this project with this last roll of adhesive. One concern about this wall is that it's going to get dusty, especially because there's these little chamfers on every panel, which is a spot for dust to rest. But we'll have to just wait and see how much that happens. This room is not going to get that dusty. When we do the woodworking portion of projects, we're going to be on the other side of the building, which is where the wood shop is. So a lot of the dust doesn't come over here. This is half of this room is backstock, so it stays quite clean. So we're going to try and keep it that way. But there will just be general room dust that settles on this. Luckily, I think vacuuming will probably work perfectly fine. So we'll take that approach if we need to. Now this panel here is, I think it's going to be the same size. So if I were to take off the material that I took off of the other panel, I think that should line up. So this is my offcut from that corner, and I know my ceiling and my wall are both straight. All of those pieces were the exact same cut. So I think if I take my offcut from the other corner and do that cut, I think that's going to line up. I'm going to go for it. And it's perfect. Okay. Well, that turned out just perfectly. So, same technique for the bottom. This is the little tiny offcut from the bottom right corner, and that needs to come off of this corner. Now, I know the floor is actually not as level as the wall. So I need to be a little bit more cautious with setting that up. I just dropped my knife on the ground and now it is very tight. I think I dented something. Okay, that one's perfect. But I'm gonna save that one for the last piece to go in. First, I'm gonna work on all these extra panels. So for my first cut, I'm gonna, oh, I can't use that piece, or can I? Is that long enough? The one edge needs to be 17.5, and it's 12. Okay, so I can't use this spare panel that I had. So I have to work with a new panel. So 17.5 from these two corners down is my straight cut. Let me double check that before I cut a piece. 17.5. Okay, so the piece is going in like that. We need 17.5 down from both corners. So so that's exactly corner to corner. That makes my life very easy. So corner to corner. Okay, that made things very easy. So these panels are 17 centimeters corner to corner. So all I had to do was line up two, and that should be my floor pieces. Okay, that's perfect. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got 1. I need 7 more. Okay, so all of those need to get corner to corner. Okay, 8 panels. Adhesive. Now there's one panel here that there's a wire trough going through, so I'm going to need to do an extra cut. And then I have my complicated cuts around the electrical. Okay, the next one is a cutout, so I'm going to leave that for now. We'll come back to that. Okay, we have the last few pieces going on down here. Move you a little closer here. Okay, we got one normal piece with a notch, then 2 full pieces here with cutouts for the electrical, and then we've got one little piece over here, and the wall is done. Okay, now I would unplug these to make things easier, but unfortunately unplugging those would turn the lights off, so I'm not gonna do that. But again, I'm gonna use my paint marker here for this cutout. So I know I need to go from there to there. That's my distance, and I know my piece is about half an inch tall, and it has a radius to it, kind of like that. So I'm gonna basically just saw this out with the blade. Okay, cutout is good, but I'm finding that my panel is a little bit too wide, and that is because I started from the edges and went in on this panel, which is a very good lesson for why I started in the center and worked out. Now the piece is only, I would say, maybe a 1/16 too big. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my blade and trim off the tiniest little piece here. I don't even think I need the ruler. I'm just going to basically eyeball this. This would be a good place for the rotary knife. So I'm going to take off the smallest sliver that I can. Okay, so that's the piece that I took off. And that was all I needed. Okay. Adhesive. Okay, so for the electrical pieces, actually let's focus on this corner first. Let's get that out of the way. We already cut this piece, so let's just get it stuck in and focus on the last 2 complicated cuts. All right, we're in last 2 pieces. I think the best way to do this is to make a paper template and then use that paper template to cut my hexagon. So what I'm gonna do is use a piece of craft paper. Hold please. I'm actually gonna use the craft paper that we're gonna use for our drawing wall here, which I will show you later. So, can you see what I'm doing here? All right, panel, 2 cuts, template. First things first, I need to make 2 of these out of paper. All right, let me grab a pair of scissors. Let's not be goofy with this. And of course, I only have fabric shears sitting around. This is why we are creating this workshop.
so that I've got all of my tools in one place. Because as of right now, in terms of what we need for production of our daily business, we have everything that we need where it needs to be. But when it comes to messing around with prototypes, and designing new stuff, and doing things off the cuff, finding tools can be a little difficult because they end up in all sorts of weird places. So this workshop is going to be a hub. A hub for all of our tools, all of our projects, all of our interesting gear. It's all going to go in here. So if you need something, you need bolts, nuts, bolts, parts, taps, screws, drills, whatever, it's going to be in this part of the workshop. Okay, we have two paper templates. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to measure. Am I going to measure or am I going to hold this up? Okay, looks like holding it up is going to be a lot easier. So I'm going to hold this up and basically just draw in the positioning of the electrical box here. Okay, that was a little bit rough, but you get the idea. So the electrical box goes across here. There's a cutout for the wires that go into the extension cords, and then that goes down like that. So that needs to be duplicated on the front of a panel. So I'm essentially just going to hold that in place. No, I'm going to cut that out. Now I did go a little bit proud of the electrical box so that my cuts didn't need to be perfect, and we'll just do the same thing that we're doing on the gaps of the panels where I'm covering it with either black paint or a black Sharpie. And I'm going to just draw this piece and okay, let's see if it fits. All right. But we have a similar problem that we had over here, where this panel is actually a hair too wide. So we're gonna have to do the same thing we did to that one, where we trim off just a hair. Little tiny hair, and a perfect fit. Okay, let's put some adhesive on that one. Get that on the wall. Okay, now same thing with the other template. This one's going to be a little bit more complicated because there are much more difficult cuts on this one. Now, I know from just looking at the cut that I need to lose, if this is the center line of the panel, this one might require a bit more drawing. So that's the center line of the panel. And I can see from looking at it that we don't go, the electrical panel doesn't go below half here. And it doesn't go past half. So I really need to remove something on the order of something like this. But there's a section here that comes back up, and I don't want to remove that. So I'm going to cut this piece out just to loosen up the template. And then when I hold it up, I'm not going to be wrinkling the whole piece. Okay, so this is roughly what I'm going to need. Okay, hold this in place. I know that I need to come straight down from this line to there, I need to come straight across from here to there. I need to go straight up from there to there. And I need to remove that semicircle, semicircle, for my wires. So let's cut this. Now, because this one has some more complicated cuts here, it's going to be difficult to cut down on those angles. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to flip over my piece and flip over my template so that I know my cuts are going to be in the right places. And this one also, I think, because these are a little more flimsy, I'm going to just trace this onto the back of my panel and then mostly freehand it. I think that will, that'll do it. Let's get those cuts made. So I'm going to start with my most fragile piece. Do my other straight cut. Okay, do my cross cut. I'm going to go halfway. And then I'm going to come across from this side again so that I get nice tight corners. Okay, that piece comes out. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to freehand that semicircle. Moment of truth.
See if it fits.
Oh, just a beautiful, beautiful fit. But same problem again. We're a little bit tight, so I'm actually going to shave a hair off both sides this time. And if you're wondering, yes, I did put adhesive up this little tiny piece. The last piece.
Huh? Little recap here. Okay, what did we accomplish? So, we just finished up this incredible backdrop. I mean, look at this. I don't want to toot my own horn, but that looks awesome. 10 foot tall, 8.5 foot wide, 1/2 inch thick, foam hexagons. Look at this. I think it does a good job with the sound dampening too. Like, that looks crazy. Come on, guys, this looks good. I love it. All right. Now we got 2 more panels down here that I can also show you that we finished up. One of the end caps there. And then we've got an end cap right here, which you can't see because it's too dark. There we go, end cap there. And then we've got to finish that, but that's gonna be another video because we're gonna do a little build video about making the mounts for the paper roll. I'm really happy with how this turned out, and I think it's gonna make a really cool addition. Thanks for coming along on the ride. More projects to come. Bye. So I just finished editing that first video, and I know it was a long one. I think it came in around 2 hours. There was a lot to cover, and there was a lot of babbling, a lot of chatting, a lot of different things that happened. I had fun filming, and I had fun putting this video together. I hope you enjoyed watching it. I'd love to get your feedback on what you think about the filming style, the commentary style, the audio, what you think I can do better, what you think needs to stay the same. And I appreciate all your feedback, so whatever you've got, please tell me in the comments down below, and stay tuned for the next video that'll be coming up soon.